Hi, how's it going everyone? So after numerous hours of gameplay and tons of runs and attempts, winning, losing, I've distilled all my learnings from playing this game into this video. And hopefully for those new players you learn something, and for those who are experienced, I hope that there's some parts of it is useful for you. So the first thing that I learned is that max health plus 1 card that is dropped by the boss, it's pretty useless. At the beginning, I thought it was very powerful, very good. It's like, wow, my max health increases by plus 1. It should be good, right? It looks good. But actually, in fact, it's the worst possible card that can be dropped. So, in the entire run, right, I will try and focus on getting items that will change this max health plus 1 into something better, which is Living Heart replaces all heart cards with item cards in all future levels. So this, right, changes things up, where you get items instead of getting plus 1 max health, because let's be honest here, items provide much more value than plus 1 max health. Plus 1 max health, what can it do? What can it do? When you fight against the monsters, it's like its impact is limited because monsters are like 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. They hit hard. Plus 1 max health is not going to change things by a lot. So instead, you rather have items that can provide an edge over your opponent, where you can probably get stealth, you can get grit, get more gold, you can get more protection, you can get more armor through that. That is why this is useful here, and the items are all permanent. Of course, your max health is permanent, but plus 1 doesn't do much. The best one so far, I feel, is Iron Block. The hard cards give you 7 armor durability, but do not increase your max HP. So you are changing plus 1 max health to 7 armor. So this is much better because you are comparing 7 armor to 1 max health, you know. So in a hypothetical scenario where you have killed the boss, you are left with 1 health, and you pick up the plus 1 max health, you only have 2 health, you know. You start the game with 2 health, with no item healing at all. But in this case, you get 7 armor, so it's 8 versus 2. Imagine if you are super unlucky. The game decides to give you a creature right in front of you, and you have to fight that creature like it hits for 5 or 6. Then you're gonna die, man. The plus 1 health is not gonna save you. The 7 armor is gonna save you. So it clearly shows, you know, the difference here, where armor, I think in the grand scheme of things, armor is probably at the top. If there's armor, I always pick armor. Then I pick health, because health always have a cap. But health is still necessary for you to win games when armor is not around. Then the rest is like items, mana, points. But at the end of the day, it's always important to remind yourself that armor and heart is what wins you games, not the rest. So the second tip is hidden passage. So I think in most runs you would face a hidden passage within the 13 stages. So hidden passage can be very deceptive. I think as a beginner you might see, oh, all these items is free, there's no creatures at all. You will pick up all these items because they're so useful, right? And you will forget that, you know, your health is low. You might die because this whole passage is pretty short. So if you are low on health, you prioritize your greed, your items over healing yourself, you will die. You wouldn't have enough health to beat the boss. So in this kind of situation, you should kind of evaluate the situation where, do I have enough health to beat the boss, which is like about 10 attack at most, I suppose, or like between 9 to 13, about that range. So you should balance things out. If you have a lot of health left after the boss, like from the previous boss, then of course I'll pick the items. If I have very little health left, I'll prioritize health and armor over these items, because you can always buy these items later on in the game. It's not game changing. Let's be honest here. I realize in this game, right, items are not game changing. It doesn't have that immediate impact that you need. Perhaps in Slay the Spires, where the artifacts are potentially game changing, but here not that much. The only items that comes close to game changing are Book of Sword, gives you more swords when creatures die, or items that gives you more swords in a level, because you have an immediate impact, right? You can kill creatures with swords, or items that give you stealth, where you can run away from creatures, you can not get hit. So these are the ones that gives you a lot of benefit, or things that like this, where it gives you armor, because armor is health armor is attack in this game, right? It works both ways. But the rest, status effects, not that much. Greed, not so important. So it's always important to really prioritize your health and your armor. So in this case, this also leads to my third learning, which is always prioritize armor, health over everything else, which is items, mana. All these things doesn't matter. As long as I have higher armor, I always win the game. I can defeat all the monsters in the world. I can defeat all the bosses in the world as long as I have armor. If you give me 100 items versus 100 armor, I will pick 100 armor over 100 items all the time, because 100 items does not guarantee you a win. It does not help you change the tides of battle. When I go to a battle with that monster, is pitting my armor and my health against that monster's attack, right? So armor and health is the most important here. So armor is at the top, S tier, ultra important. Then health, because health is still useful, but it has a cap, so not that great, but it's still useful. Then the rest is mana items. So, you know, do not be tempted by the fact that I'm 1 mana away from passing my spell. If your spell is not gonna impact the gameplay, it's not gonna win you games, then you shouldn't take the risk and go take that additional mana potion just to get hit by a couple more monsters, because that is not useful at all. Most character spells are not game changing in that sense, are not gonna change the tides of battle. I think Exertis plus 5 armor, I think that's game changing to some extent. I think Silence also, or Fate has an ability where it can destroy all the creatures nearby, so that is also game changing, but most doesn't. It's not useful at all. It's good to have. I mean, you should focus on yourself first. If you are strong enough, then you can consider going for mana or coins to kind of make your life better, make you secure your run, like increase your percentage of winning the run by a bit more, but otherwise focus on armor. So that's my take on it. Then besides that, the last one is, I mean, think before you move. As much as the game is very chill, I really enjoy this game a lot because it's very relaxing. There's not much thinking involved. As much as this is like a deck, not really a deck builder, it's like a card game, but there's not much crazy strategic elements involved where you have to constantly think and be on the ball. But it's still important to do some light and simple thinking when you have to chart your path. So you always should think before you move. If there's a lot of monsters, you should choose the path of least resistance. Calculate how much each monster will deal damage to you, like left path, right path, middle path, which one is the worst, which one will deal most damage, then you avoid that path, go for the easiest path. So that's like the general idea of how you should move. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, it's also trying to figure out the risk and reward of things. But generally, I think in terms of pathing wise, I will always be conservative here. I think this game seems to reward conservative moves a lot. You try and prioritize your armor and health over coins and mana, and also try and prevent damage. So prevent damage, prevent going to monsters, prioritize taking armor, prioritize taking potion. Actually, if I have a choice, right, if I can avoid all the monsters and go directly to the boss, I will do that. I'll do that because most times your health is high enough to defeat the boss outright, which is pretty funny. I would expect, like, because this is a dungeon crawler game, right, I would expect the game to incentivize me to kill monsters and become better. Then, you know, by the end of the stage, I should fight a very big monster that I barely scrape through. But actually, that's not the case. I can just leapfrog and jump over all these monsters, and I fight the boss already, and I can still win the game. So this is pretty interesting, where you have to toss out all your understanding of how a dungeon crawler should be like, because this doesn't incentivize you to destroy monsters at all. It doesn't give you XP. All it gives you is either skulls or coins, which is not game changing, doesn't have an immediate impact. You can buy items, but then the item might not give you an immediate impact in terms of winning the game as well. So this really is all about avoiding monsters instead of trying to fight monsters here. I will always try and avoid and conserve health as much as possible, and that's how you win games in those basic runs. But I think this applies to other more challenging runs as well, with more handicaps that are given to you. So this is my learnings, and hopefully you find it useful. And if you are interested in watching my gameplays, you can find it in the description below. I have a playlist of all the gameplays where I tried different spells, different characters, and hopefully you enjoy it. So that's all for today. Thank you.